Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we re-diving into the series on a truly legendary business book, Jack. Straight from the Gut by Jack Welch. This isn't just a business memoir. It's a masterclass in leadership, transformation, and what it takes to win in the corporate world. If you've ever wondered how General Electric or GE became one of the most valuable companies on the planet, this is the story you need to hear. So, who is Jack Welch? He wasn't your typical CEO. He joined GE in 1960 as a chemical engineer, a young guy with big ideas, fresh out of his PhD program. But he almost quit within his first year. Why? Bureaucracy? Red tape. The slow, impersonal nature of a giant corporation. This early frustration became the fuel for his entire career. He hated the stifling layers of management that slowed everything down and made people feel like just a number. This experience shaped his core philosophy. Business should be fast, simple, and all about people. When Welch took the helm as CEO in 1981, GE was a solid, respected American company, but it was also seen as a bit of a slow-moving giant. Welch had a radical vision. He didn't want GE to just be good. He wanted it to be the absolute best. He famously declared that every GE business had to be number one or number two in its market. If it wasn't, they had to fix it, sell it, or close it. This was a brutal, uncompromising standard, and it earned him the nickname Neutron Jack because he would eliminate jobs and entire divisions, leaving the buildings standing. But this fix, sell, or close strategy was just one piece of the puzzle. Welch's early years as CEO were about dismantling the old GE. He ripped out entire levels of management from 9 layers down to just 4 or 5. He wanted information to flow freely and quickly. He wanted the person on the factory floor to be able to get an idea to a senior leader without it getting lost in a sea of paperwork and middle managers. He believed that the best ideas often came from the people closest to the action, not from the top of the ivory tower. This process was about creating what he called a boundaryless organization. He wanted to break down the walls not just between management and employees, but also between different GE businesses and even between GE and its suppliers and customers. He saw these boundaries as barriers to speed, innovation, and learning. He wanted everyone, regardless of their title or division, to share ideas and work together toward a common goal. It was about creating a small company feel inside a global behemoth. This was a massive cultural shock. It was tough, and a lot of people who were comfortable with the old way of doing things did unmake it. But for those who embraced this new, faster, more open culture, the opportunities were incredible. Welch was creating a meritocracy where your performance and your ideas mattered more than your title or how long you'd been with the company. He was obsessed with finding and developing talent, what he called a players. So the first part of Jack's journey is really about tearing down the old to build something new. It's a story of challenging the status quo, refusing to accept mediocrity, and having the courage to make incredibly difficult decisions. It lays the groundwork for the massive growth and transformation that would define his tenure. So, after shaking things up with his rank and yank system, Welch turned his attention to something he called the hardware and software of the company. The hardware was GE's portfolio of businesses. Welch was ruthless here. His rule was simple. If a business wasn't number one or number two in its market, GE had to fix it, sell it, or close it. This wasn't about sentiment. It was about being the best. This strategy forced every division to either dominate its field or face the consequences, leading to a leaner, more competitive GE. But changing the structure wasn't enough. Welch knew he had to change the culture of the software. This is where his famous concept of the boundaryless organization comes in. He wanted to tear down the walls between departments, between levels of management, and even between GE and its suppliers and customers. He believed the best ideas could come from anywhere. And bureaucracy was the enemy of speed and innovation. To make this happen, he championed initiatives like Workout. This wasn't a gym session. It was a series of town hall-style meetings where employees of all levels could voice their frustrations and suggest improvements directly to managers. The rule was that managers had to give an on-spot yes or no to at least 75% of the suggestions. This empowered employees, cut through red tape, and made everyone feel like they had a stake in the company's success. It was a radical shift from the old top-down command and control style of management. Another cornerstone of his cultural revolution was the 4E framework for leadership. Welch looked for leaders with high energy, the ability to energize others, the edge to make tough decisions, and the ability to execute. Later, he added a fifth E, passion. He believed that without passion for the work, the other four qualities meant nothing. This framework became the standard for hiring and promotion, ensuring that GE's leadership was aligned with his vision of a dynamic, fast-moving company. Welch also understood the power of continuous learning. He transformed GE's training center at Crotonville into a hub of intellectual energy, a place where ideas were debated and leaders were developed. He personally spent a huge amount of time there, teaching and engaging with GE's future leaders, embedding his philosophy directly into the company's DNA. Through these combined efforts streamlining the business, portfolio, and revolutionizing the corporate culture, Welch wasn't just managing, he was actively reinventing it. He was creating a company that was not only big but also agile, a true global powerhouse ready for the 21st century. So now let's dive deep into the core of Welch's management philosophy at General Electric, focusing on how he transformed the company's culture and what lessons we can take away from his legendary tenure. So we've talked about his early days and his major strategic moves. Now, let's get into the people side of things, which Welch considered the most important part of his job. He famously said, "My main job was developing talent." He wasn't just a manager. He was a coach, a mentor, and sometimes a tough critic. He believed that a company's success is directly tied to the quality of its people. This led him to create what's known as the vitality curve, or as it was more informally called, rank and yank. Here's how it worked. GE would differentiate its workforce into three groups. The top 20% were the stars. They were rewarded generously with bonuses, stock options, and recognition. They were the leaders of the future, and Welch poured resources into their development. The middle 70% were the solid core performers. They were the engine of the company. The goal with this group was to keep them motivated and coached, helping them move up into that top 20%. Then there was the bottom 10%. Welch's philosophy here was blunt. These individuals were underperforming, and after being given a chance to improve, they were let go. Now, this was, and still is, a hugely controversial practice. Critics argue it's brutal and creates a culture of fear, but Welch defended it fiercely. He believed it was crueler to keep someone in a job they weren't good at, giving them false hope and preventing them from finding a role where they could truly succeed. He saw it as a form of honesty and transparency. Whether you agree with it or not, it was a cornerstone of his system for building a high-performance organization. He wanted to create a true meritocracy where performance, not politics, was all that mattered. Beyond the ranking system, Welch was obsessed with what he called boundaryless behavior. He wanted to break down the walls between departments, between levels of management, and even between GE and its suppliers and customers. He hated bureaucracy and internal silos. He believed ideas should flow freely from anywhere. To foster this, he championed the workout program. This was a series of town hall-style meetings where employees of all levels could voice their opinions, challenge existing processes, and make suggestions directly to senior leaders. The rule was that managers had to give an on-the-spot yes or no to at least 75% of the suggestions. This wasn't just about gathering ideas. It was about empowering employees and making them feel like owners of the business. Another key theme from the latter part of Welch's career was his focus on Six Sigma. GE didn't invent Six Sigma, but Welch adopted it with incredible passion in the mid-90s. For him, it was more than just a quality control program. It was a way to change the very DNA of the company. Six Sigma is a data-driven methodology aimed at eliminating defects and improving processes by training thousands of employees to become black belts and green belts in Six Sigma. Welch instilled a culture of precision, measurement, and continuous improvement. It saved GE billions of dollars and dramatically improved the quality of its products and services. Finally, looking back on his 20 years as CEO, Welch reflects on the importance of succession planning. Choosing a successor was one of his last and most critical tasks. He spent years grooming 3 internal candidates, giving them immense responsibilities and watching them perform. The process was intense and highly public, but for Welch, it was essential to ensure a smooth transition and the continued success of the company he had rebuilt. When he finally chose Jeff Immelt, he did so believing he had left GE in capable hands. In conclusion, Jack, Straight from the Gut is more than just a business memoir. It's a raw, unfiltered look into the mind of a leader who was willing to make tough, often unpopular decisions to achieve greatness. His ideas on people, bureaucracy, and quality fundamentally reshaped GE and have influenced countless leaders worldwide. Welch's legacy is complex, but his relentless drive for excellence is undeniable. Thanks for joining me on this 3-part journey through Jack Welch's incredible career. If you enjoyed this series, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you won't miss our next deep dive into the world of business. See you in the next video.